are watching CNN Newsroom live from Los Angeles. Ahead this hour, anger in Brazil after thousands of years of history go up in flames. Why some believe that the fire at Brazil's National Museum was a disaster just waiting to happen. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Nick Watt. This is Newsroom LA. An investigation is underway to determine what caused a massive fire that tore through Brazil's National Museum Sunday night. Priceless artifacts, many of them thousands of years old, burned to ashes, lost forever. And museum officials say it's a tragedy that didn't have to happen. The centuries-old building apparently didn't have an adequate sprinkler system in place and had grown increasingly dilapidated in recent years. More on this developing story from Shasta Darlington.
For Brazil, it's a national tragedy. They've lost the single most historical and anthropological museum in the entire country, with millions of artifacts that really helped define the national identity, as well as the building itself that was once home to Portuguese kings.
In Rio de Janeiro, the National Museum of Brazil was engulfed in a massive fire. Rare exhibits and priceless artifacts dating back centuries were destroyed. Residents and museum employees gathered in the area as news of the blaze spread and watched in horror as firefighters struggled to contain the flames.
It's a loss for the world. This can never be recovered. For the people, the building, there is no way to get it back.
Founded in 1818 by the Portuguese royal family, the museum was commemorating its bicentennial this year and was home to at least 20 million ancient relics. The museum's collection included thousands of works from the pre-Columbian era, mummified Andean skeletons, and the oldest human remains ever to be discovered in Brazil.
Thankfully, no one died, but the loss can never be recovered.
The building itself was a piece of history, now destroyed in the flames. A former imperial palace, it was converted into a museum 200 years ago. Brazilian President Michel Temer said the loss of the collection is too great to be calculated. The cause of the fire remains unknown, and an investigation has been opened.
While the investigation into the cause is just beginning, the finger pointing is well underway. Museum and university officials say the budget has been repeatedly slashed year after year, which has made it difficult to maintain the building. Forget trying to update it. They say there wasn't a sprinkler system in place, yet they've requested one year after year. They've requested the budget to install a sprinkler system. The fire warning system was also faulty. And in fact, even when the firefighters arrived on the scene, the two fire hydrants that they would have used to put out the blaze didn't have enough water pressure. They went to the water authorities, tried to divert the water. That didn't work. They had to go to a nearby pond to get water from the pond and bring in water trucks to put out this fire. This has just incensed not only the citizens of Rio, but really Brazilians who feel like the situation at the museum is a reflection of what's going on in the country itself after years of a deep recession and a failure to invest in what's most important to them. For CNN, this is Shasta Darlington in Sao Paulo.
And a terrible irony, a fire prevention system upgrade for the museum was due to begin in just a few weeks. Now, I'm joined now by Amy Buono from Chapman University, who you are also an expert in Brazilian antiquity. Now, you've worked at this museum. What has Brazil lost? What has South America lost? What has the world lost?
This is an unspeakable tragedy for the country of Brazil. The National Museum is Brazil's most comprehensive collection, not just of historical and cultural materials, but also of biological heritage. It would be as if one would to lose the entire Smithsonian complex or the British Museum in terms of the comprehensive nature of what the collection holds.
And so the collection includes obviously artifacts from South America, but also some things that were brought across by the Portuguese royal family, a lot of stuff from Egypt?
Yes, so it has the original Portuguese royal collections that they took with them when they fled Portugal to make residence in Rio. It has their original complete library and the historical collections, and then it has all of the material artifacts that have been collected since the 19th century. So it's an enormous collection.
I mean, the president said, quote, this loss is insurmountable for Brazil. The preservation director from the museum said that very little will be left. I mean, we're talking 20 million relics in this museum. Do we know what has survived, if anything? As
of yet, they're not sure. It's thought that most of the exhibition, the displays that were actually up in the main rooms, have all been destroyed. All of them. It's unclear. Yes, it's unclear if some of the material in the repositories will survive.
I mean, there's got to be some strong boxes somewhere.
Yes, so apparently there is probably a safe box in the back of the museum that may hold some of the most precious objects, but the majority of the museum is now lost. Okay. And so this is, it's the cultural memory of Brazil is gone.
The cultural memory of Brazil is gone.
And not only the nation, but also of living indigenous communities from across the country, and whole cultural heritage that will impact the future of research as we know it in Brazil.
And as we heard in Shasta's report, I mean, some people are saying that this didn't have to happen.
Yes.
I mean, is this President Temer's austerity kicking in here and giving us this terrible result?
Yes, since 2014, the museum has been operating on a shoestring budget, and so there was not proper infrastructure in place for a museum of this caliber to keep the objects safeguarded. And then on top of that, the infrastructure of the city of Rio has been deteriorating since the recession, and so when the firefighters arrived and couldn't even get water out of the hydrants, this, in a way, is, as Shasta mentioned, it's a signal of how bad things really are in Rio at this moment.
This is a metaphor for what's happening in the country and the city?
Exactly. Yes.
And if you are a researcher, I mean, I imagine there are researchers and academics whose entire life and entire work is connected to this museum.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they do now?
I think it's not just current research projects that are going on, but it's the future of research itself that is at stake here, because so many of these objects are now lost. And so when new technologies arrive in new ways of analyzing material, there'll be no objects to go back to research. And this was also a teaching collection and a university space. And so that's lost for
forever.
Forever.
Amy, thank you very much for your sadly bleak interpretation of what's happened in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Thank you.